Internet, hello and welcome to our first week here on the Classic Championship Series Season 2, starting off today with the Intermediate League. I'm Agent A2, this is Septi, and we're here to bring you our first game of this league between Going Soulbert and Dorado Gaming Omega. Dorado Gaming Omega coming in as the runners-up from last season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe so. They were the runners up, did decide to go into the offseason and make a couple of changes, but that was a completely different meta from before. But we're going to see a whole new lineup here with some familiar faces from the past. Hoshiyumi, I believe. Hoshiyumi and maybe Banger being the only returning members from the Dorado Gaming Omega side. So we're going to see a whole bunch of new things coming into the split. I'm so excited. And if you're new to CCS, welcome. We actually split up our Platinum and Diamond leagues into two. We have novice and intermediate now. Novice is going to be, I believe, P1 cap, and intermediate goes all the way up to D3 cap. So we're going to see a whole bunch of fun action tonight as the teams are getting ready to go. But I'm really excited because the meta seems fun. There's a lot of fun, new, interesting champions. We have double 80 carries in the bot lane as a very common thing. And there's just so much fun team fighting action, so many fun just pushing lanes, and we're going to get a lot of skill expression from these drafts and from these teams tonight.
Yeah, really interesting to see how support has developed. You know, from seeing Lucian Nami versus Zeri Lulu every game, or Zeri Yumi, or what have you. We started seeing Heimerdinger come in as the answer to these kind of scaling bot lanes, and then in answer to Heimer, we see these kind of 80 carry supports come in. I gotta say, I'm personally not a fan of it, but it is always interesting to watch. Um, do you know so in game number one here, Going Soulbert is going to be on blue side, Dorado Gaming on red side. Is that something that they've chosen, or is this something that has been predetermined?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I can check on that if you give me 1 second, but I believe more often than not, I think there's probably a home team that would pick if I can't remember exactly, but give me 1 second and I will get you right back for that. Either way, I think blue side is a very important pick in this part of the season just because the meta is still sort of forming, and so there are like a few picks that have been determined as like the key ones to pick up, those being Ashe, those being Varus, potentially Maokai as well, are very strong picks in general, just because they can control so much tempo, they can create so much space throughout the map. And we are actually live on draft. I do not know if we've switched to it yet, but draft
Yep.
has started. As as just I said, that Ashe is going to be the first thing taken away from Dorado Gaming Omega. Again, it just means that Going Soulbert has a pick that they've lined up that they do not want to play Ashe into. Most of the time, it's something like a Caitlyn, something that is going to be pushing and something that they don't want to have counter push against.
Yeah,
Talia ban is interesting.
yeah, exactly like you said, the Ashe is the first ban out. Um, Probably one of the more prolific as far as the 80 carry supports go, or the marksman supports. Just has a lot of utility, a lot of damage once you've pilled up that Imperial Mandate, and that Enchanted Crystal Arrow is on such an obscenely low cooldown.
Yeah.
You just make plays, you can just fish with it, it doesn't really matter. Pantheon is the ban coming out from Dorado Gaming Omega. I'm assuming that's because, what is it?
It's
Is it
going to be
Laughable Cargo?
laughable.
Laughable
Yeah,
Cargo, top
laughable
lane is
Cargo.
for Going Soulbert, spamming that champion in solo queue this season so far.
Yeah, it's been his go-to. Has had some pretty good success on it over the course of their game so far. The Talia ban is interesting, but from the theme of their ban so far, Dorado Gaming Omega definitely seems to be angling towards not allowing many global plays to go down. They want to be able to set up their potential 1-3-1, and not have to worry about those globals and semi-globals shutting them down in that situation. And with that Silas ban, I am imagining that Soulbert might be angling for a Maokai first pick, as the Silas is a fairly comfortable pick that both junglers have seemed to have been able to play so far in the season, and is the typical counter pick to Maokai, because when you're going into setup for a fight, Maokai is generally just going to be able to throw saplings, and once you actually want to engage the fight, Seraphine is also another one of those press R champions that Silas would be able to abuse if he were still in the game. But the Caitlyn ban is exactly what we were talking about with that Ashe ban. They wanted to stop the counter push, or the push rather. Um, but Going Soulbert had a second answer in that Seraphine, which I believe is a fairly common Soulbert champion. Um, just thinking about what they've played in the past, and just looking at their OPs, they definitely do it. And the one thing about Seraphine is that she's somewhat, vulnerable in lane to a hard engaged style. which is something that I know Matt G and Hoshiumi are very capable of playing, as Tristana is locked as a flex between mid and ADC.
Yeah, we've been seeing some Tristana mid come out from LPL LCK teams. Uh, pretty aggressive. Does like not scale like crazy, but does hold her own come late game. Just unloading with crit based auto attacks and your explosive charge just continuing. And then the Nautilus coming in. This would suggest it is going to be Tristana bot. This is a very aggressive, go forward, kill the Seraphine bottom lane that they picked up here.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's one of those lanes that's going to be looking to potentially dive the Seraphine on repeat. If this were me, I potentially would be looking to pick something like an Elise on 3 if I'm Dorado Gaming Omega, just to really secure that dive and threat onto the bot lane. But Kindred being a very nice pickup into this Tristana Nautilus, kind of counterpicking themselves, given that Tristana does have that Buster shot. But with the Braum picked up, it does make me question a little bit about this Seraphine, just because you generally don't see a Braum paired with Seraphine AD carry. I at least haven't seen it before, but it definitely could be possible. Braum being there to stop the engage from the Nautilus, being able to throw up a shield and stop the one shot engage that would come from that Tristana Nautilus. But moving into this third pick, I'm really curious to see what Dorado plays. It could be just a jungle match, or we could look for a AD carry to pair with the Nautilus more.
Yeah, it is gonna be Victor, it looks like. So, okay, last minute swap back over to Victor. So it will be Tristana going into the bottom lane. The Braum, like you said, may be curious going alongside Seraphine. Uh, but at the very least, like if it's not a lane matchup, it does still kind of work because you have Kindred, you have the marksman with the ranged auto attacks to synergize with those concussive blows. And like you said, really nice form of disengage to try and peel for your Seraphine who wants to be in the back, just shielding and throwing out abilities. Getting into the second rotation of bans, Irelia and Tryndamere are going to be taken off the table.
Yeah, I mean, Dorado Gaming Omega has a lot of damage in this mid game currently with the picks that they've drafted so far. I'm looking for going Soulbert to pick up probably at least one more frontline champion, maybe a bruiser in the top lane, as well as a heavy AP mid laner if they're not going to be setting that Seraphine in the mid lane. They're going to need a bunch of damage moving forward because Dorado Gaming Omega has a very nice core and they can just look to round it out with supportive pieces. But looking at these bans, it seems as though no one wants to be playing any skill expressive picks in the top lane with Irelia, Gwen, and Tryndamere taken away. Um, but it
Yeah,
does
will
seem
we
like
see Cassante Jax or Cassante Nar or Jax Nar maybe?
yeah,
Oh, very
of
exciting.
the rock paper scissors might we get in this game? But I mean, looking at those four bands in top lane, it seems as though we might actually be angling towards more of a dueling style, or at least that's where each team's heads at, where they don't want their dueling pick taken away. But I'm expecting a jungle pick out of Dorado Gaming Omega here, as they've already shown their mid laner. Unless Banger has a pick in his pocket, nope, it is going to be that Zinjao, which is actually very nice again, potentially against that Kindred because he does have his ultimate ability, which does allow a big AOE sweep, which will send anyone who he has not challenged or autoed last out of the Kindred ulti should she choose to use it before he uses his ultimate. Um, but yeah, really interesting here. I imagine, going Soulbert is going to be looking for a potential dueling champion in the top side. Could be that Jax coming out from a flappable cargo. Syndra being picked up is going to be that hard AD pick in the mid lane. Oh, just
Oh,
kidding. Wow,
last
that is
second
a
swap over to Tom Kench, presumably going into that top lane. So this is a nice little juggernaut-esque champion. You kind of just walk at people, you knock them up, you just do a bunch of damage, and you have to get through this champion twice because of the gray health shield coming out. Not to mention, if you can't get through him quickly enough, he's going to get multiple rotations of Seraphine shields coming out. So, interesting frontliner, and then you lock in the Zoe as the last pickup for going Soulbert, going up against that Victor in the mid lane.
Zoe's a little bit odd here. Um, she just doesn't really fit the theme of the comp. But I do want to talk about this Tom Kench. The catfish has been popping up in solo queue, and a bunch of high elo players have been playing it because he's super strong, obviously with his passive auto attack or with just his regular auto attacks. But it has gotten to the point where you can build him like a bruiser, essentially. Actually, not like a bruiser. You build him like a tank, but he does the damage of a bruiser just by existing. So Tom Kench will be going for that early, just bomby Cinder. Will sit on that until they finish their mythic item. I believe it probably is going to be something like a Jock shows. But matched with the Zac in the top lane means that Dorado Gaming is going to be opting in to the style that's going Soulbert wants to play, which is going to be these long, drawn out fights, which is going to be really difficult to play into when you don't have, super hard burst from any of your carries. Because even if they catch out someone, like the Kindred, like the Zoe, they're not going to be able to one shot them fast enough before someone like Tom Kench Braum or even Seraphine will be able to throw up a shield, throw up a wall or a door in Braum's case, or eat them out of it. Just it's going to be interesting. So Dorado Gaming Omega, I think, definitely has a better rounded comp. But fighting 5v5 is going to be really difficult if they are on even footing. The only saving grace, though, for them is that going Soulbert has opted for a strangely out of theme Zoe pick. I only say this just because she does not really fit with the, you know, playing for long fights, playing for long drawn out engages. Something like a Swain maybe would have been a little bit more on theme here. But I could definitely see it being a potential good piece for this comp because if you look to poke out Dorado Gaming Omega potentially before these fights, it just means that they'll be able to last even shorter amount of time into your sustained comp.
Yeah, I actually really like the Xin Zhao pickup. I didn't really talk about it too much, but the Crescent Guard is super good against these kind of long range carries. If you aren't able to get in there and just one shot them, at the very least you can sort of just stand there and be a zone that's not taking damage from champions like Seraphine or like Kindred who are going to be trying to auto you from outside of your Crescent Guard range, and you can just stall for time, allow your back line to kill off their front line first, and then kind of move together and try and converge on their back line once the job is done.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's your own makeshift Kindred ultimate per se, as you can stall the same amount of time as Seraphine heals and shields. Um, but it's going to be interesting. I imagine the Xinjiao will be playing to shut down the Seraphine as hard as possible, and Kindred will be playing more so for herself, I believe, trying to pick up those marks as we go throughout the game. Just remembering that, 4 is the magic number on the Kindred, going for 4 of those stacks to make sure that they get the increased range and damage on their auto attacks. But I mean, really, Xinjiao is going to be doing a whole lot of ganking in the early game would be my guess. We'll be going for those early dragon controls, and really trying to make the most of this early game before going Soulbird could get going. As the funny phrase would be. Um, but it's gonna be interesting. I imagine we're gonna see top damage numbers from Tom Kench and Zac as they're just gonna be perma fighting the whole time, and
Yeah,
we can look for either top lane to get ganked from their respective jungles because yeah, I mean, Tom Kench and Zac both have a lot of CC to their name. Xin Zhao is going to be able to keep the catfish locked in place. Kindred does percent health damage or percent missing health with her E ability, and will be able to knock down that Zac, even with passive up. But yeah, it's going to be interesting going into this.
yeah, I'm anticipating that Tristan and Nautilus will probably have priority in the bottom lane. Like you said, Seraphine not super synergistic, at least in the 2v2 with the Braum, just because you can't auto as quickly to proc the concussive blows. But at the very least, they should be able to survive in lane, but it might mean that, like you said, Xin is going to get some early dragon control, maybe get them on an early path towards that soul, uh, and maybe that gives them the edge that they need come later on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, again, looking at the scaling, it's definitely more. I mean, both teams scale pretty well. Tristana maybe a little bit less so than Kindred. Victor maybe a little bit more so than Zoe. But either way, I think both teams have a good shot. Depending on how this early game goes, if Blue Side falls behind, if going Silbert falls behind in the early game, it's going to be really difficult for them to get back into it, especially if Matt G and Banger are able to pick up a few kills on their champions. I mean, remember Victor as well has to scale off of farming and or getting assists. So if he's able to get those upgrades sooner rather than later, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah. So, Septi, what position do you play in League of Legends?
I am a jungler. I am a proud jungler.
Oh, wow, same here. So, would you rather be in this game? Would you rather be the Xin Zhao or the Kindred? Just nameplates off. Which team would you rather be playing on?
I think I'd much rather be playing as the Xin here. I think with the frontline partners I have in Zac and Nautilus, I can create a lot of space and set up a lot of gank opportunities for Tristana to get ahead. Seraphine is a very squishy lane, so even if Braum does get his shield up, it shouldn't really matter. You'll always be able to get at least one kill, even if it's a dive. Um, I think Birdo's got their work cut out for them, to sort of stay on pacing with Banger. But I mean, this is the first week of CCS, right? We're gonna see where the teams shake out. Um, we might have our. I mean, I think Dorado has a pretty good lineup here, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see where people fall on the power rankings list after this week. But
Yeah, we'll see. It like a lot of times, first game nerves. Maybe you play a little bit more passively than you should. Maybe you get your nervous energy propels you towards aggression. In any case, we've got about a minute and a half left on the spectator delay, so we're gonna throw up a standby screen and wait for a little bit while we get set up for this game number one. Thanks everyone for watching the Classic Championship Series, and we'll see you in just a little bit. Internet, hello and welcome back. We're here. Game number one between going Soulbert and Dorado Gaming Omega.
Yeah, I mean, this is really exciting. We already see a fun
30
play start
seconds
to
until
happen on
ring.
this top side. Banger dropping a ward and instantly getting to see a new feature of the game since we joined you last season, which are going to be those ward pings. So we had the wards, you know, there's a warded area here, but now if you do that on a ward that has been recently seen in vision, it will leave a mark for the entire duration of that ward. So it's going to be interesting seeing, you know, how people are able to use that, if it changes the number of ganks that we see, if it changes the number of objectives that
Minions have
potentially get
spawned.
lost because of it. But either way, that potential invade from going Soulbert is not going to happen as they are warded out by Banger. But Dorado Gaming have no knowledge of this. They just are assuming that is a 5-point spread. And it looks like Banger is going to be starting on his red as well as Birdo, which is
Yeah,
going to be
so first
interesting.
thing, yeah, so first thing we should talk about is both of the junglers have opted for Bulbasaur as their jungle pet of choice. As once this thing gets fully upgraded, it gives you a shield that regenerates, and while you have the shield and for a brief period of time after it breaks, you have 20% tenacity and 20% slow resist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, Moss Stomper is going to be the jungle pet of choice for most junglers. Interesting that Kindred went for it. This game generally likes to opt for potentially more of the blue trinket. I promise I will get better at these names as I go along the split. But just because that blue, I guess we can talk about it later on, but it basically gives you a lot of speed once you finished it. It basically makes you like Sonic, as Banger accidentally reset his Raptors a little bit there. And was forced to go back and finish it. We already see Birdo going for a potential level 2 gank. This is something that has actually been very common in competitive play across the world, is these red into level 2s after Krug. It is an awkward gank timing that people don't really know about. As we already see Hoshiumi going for something a little bit crazy here, is going to be able to potentially spot out Birdo on these Raptors, is going to find him.
Yeah,
So
drops a
very
word
good,
right in his face.
very good information for Dorado Gaming Omega here, as it's even good for the bot lane because they were able to get this push in and get the bounce on the wave. So Matt G not losing much out of this trade, maybe only just 1 minion, but Caddy getting their bone plating broken. As we see Zen Zhao spending a lot of time on this top lane here, we
Yeah,
should see a
he's coming
gank
in for the
coming
gank
out.
now. Banger is going to show up. Bennett has already used most of his abilities. He's going to look for the Abyssal Voyage out, but he's going to be followed up immediately. Banger with a knockup. First blood picked up by Bennett in the top side.
Bennett doing a really nice job setting that play up. Unable to get the gray health popped. Was flappable cargo. But, I mean, honestly, a very good job from Banger. Was able to, you know, not get punished for spending as much time in that top side. Is potentially going to look on to wrap around on the Zoe, but is instead going to opt to ward the banana bush. But very nice for Banger in this early game. Is going to get a good lead for Bennett, who has a great wave state in that top side there, as it is going to be pushing into him. But it seems as though Birdo has lost out on the 50-50, and is probably going to get double crabbed by Banger, as Dorado Gaming knew from Hoshiumi's invade on those Raptors that Birdo was going to be pathing towards that top side, and with the mark spawning on bottom crab, it is going to be unlucky days for Birdo.
Yeah, almost 50-50 almost doesn't matter when Banger has priority in the top side where they both were, is now able to just mosey on down, pick up the double crab. Birdo will not be getting the first mark anytime soon.
Yeah, Birdo is probably going to look for a first. So I think the way it works is that the first mark will always spawn on a crab. So if Birdo is able to set themselves up for the next spawn of the crab, and I believe it's 2 minutes time? Maybe 3 minutes. I think it might be 3 minutes for this next crab. Should be very good for them. Does have the push in mid and has a decent idea of where Banger might be, as the Zoe and Kindred are looking for a nice invade on the Xin Zhao, who is nicely pathing away from it naturally.
Yeah, they're gonna maybe run into them on the Gromp here, but looks like they don't actually know. He hops over the wall, is gonna find Banger there, but Smite is gonna be securing it. Banger now looking to try and go for the 1v1 on Dorado. It looks like he's losing out, and the Sleepy Trouble Bubble is gonna make it even worse. He flashes, dodges away from the Paddle Storm. Matt G, rocket jumps in. Banger trying to survive. Frosty just needs a couple more autos to finish the job, but cannot find it. Well, Banger will make it out, but Frosty does pick up an extra flash. Is gonna get the kill back onto Banger, but now is in no man's land, getting collapsed by Hoshiumi and Kitsumi. Matt G now getting jumped on by Caddy, not gonna land those E's coming out from Soulbert over the wall. The cleanse comes out on the concussive blows. The gravity field forces the flash out from Caddy. It's just gonna be 1 for 0 as Frosty was able to teleport back to his own tower.
All right, CCS is back, and we are in full nonsense mode as I thought that, that was going to be one of those moments where Frosty was saying, I'm going to kill the Xin Zhao even if it's the death of me. Turns out it wasn't the death of them, but it was almost a tragedy because Frosty was able to land a very nice bubble onto Banger, who was not suspecting that the Zoe was there. But after the bubble was fail flashed and was therefore unable to get the range on the Paddle Star, and then I believe flashed a second time or got in range of Banger, but Matt G rather had walked into range and Frosty accidentally clicked on the Tristana with the auto attack instead of Banger. But it doesn't really matter as Birdo's going for this. Hoshiyumi looking for the hook. Birdo not letting any of this happen as the Mounting Dread is stacking onto Hoshiyumi. There's not going to be anything of it, but Soulbert getting to crash their wave with the help of Birdo and Caddy will be a very nice start for the game, honestly, to the side of going Soulbert.
Nice little pickup there. Kind of counteracts the first blood gank, but Banger and Bennett coming out a little bit on top there. You're seeing about 600 gold lead. That's actually about the value of first blood, and then they've got a little bit of a CS lead, but in the top lane thanks to that.
Yeah, it just looks like Dorado is farming a little bit better. Bennett doing a good job of getting that CS on the top side, but it looks like it will be evened out by flappable cargo on this wave. But with Dorado Gaming on a reset, it is going to look like Birdo is going to be able to pick up their first mark on that top side crab.
Frosty 6 and flappable cargo coming in to support their jungler in securing that crab. Bennett kind of sniffing around, see maybe he can find a way in, but looks like that'll be secured no problem. First mark going over to Birdo there for this game.
Yeah, I mean, but with Birdo going for such an obvious play, Banger has a good idea of what is going on around them and is going to be able to sneak away that red buff, knows that there's a lot of vision around him potentially, and it's going to wait for the backup of Hoshiyumi before he walks out of this jungle. But honestly, a very nice invade from Banger could have potentially found the Kindred sprinting to their red, but with Hoshiyumi being around, they might just be waiting.
Yeah, they're actually, looks like they're just gonna wait there for the Kindred to come in and try and take her red buff, which is unfortunately already gone the way of Banger. So a little bit of a cheese, but this is a lot of time invested for this kill. They need to get it for this to be worth it.
This is a lot of time.
They're gonna bail out now, and they're gonna go for the gank on bottom. Soulbert
they're trying to punish.
I don't think they realize.
They're trying to punish Matt G for trying to hold this wave, but in fact, Matt G is baiting. Caddy does not have flash.
Soulbert is going to be the target. They flash Dreadline in to get in there. They flash over the wall. Now Caddy is going to be the focus. Matt G's exhausted, but the exhaust wears off now. Concussive flow stacking up. Banger. One more auto will do the job. Nice dodge on that by charging the minion. Now the root coming out. It's a 4v4 in the bottom lane. As Kitsumi does show up as well. The Lamb's Respite is thrown down. Hoshiyumi got one more auto on the concussive flow. It wears up just before the Winner's Bite connects. Now Frosty will connect the Paddle Star and gets the one kill of that skirmish.
Yeah, and it's just really unfortunate for Dorado Gaming. There were no flashes on the side of going Soulbert after that initial engage onto the Seraphine, and they just didn't track the Zoe realm fast enough, as well as not realizing that Birdo would be pathing down as quickly as they did. It looked like it was going to be really bad for the blue side there initially, as we see the Devour happening. Bennett does have passive.
Into the tower, and Bennett will take a tower shot, but a lot of healing coming out as those blobs are picked up off of the Let's Bounce. Will force the flash out from flammable cargo, as on the other side, he is, his team is taking the Cloud Drake first dragon of the game and of the Classic Championship Series Season 2, going over to going Soulbert.
We do love a good Cloud Dragon. But yeah, I mean, I think Bennett maybe could have gotten that kill onto flappable cargo if they committed the flash, but decided to hold on to it in case Birdo decided to put a mark. But it was a little bit unfortunate because Kitsumi on that Victor did not have any mana going into that fight on bot
coming out from Matt G. Now here's the Unbreakable and the Winner's Bite connecting, but not a whole lot of follow-up. Like you said before, and we've been saying this whole time, the Seraphine not really. Oh, hold on, the Encore instantly cleansed out from Matt G to dodge away from the Glacial Fissure.
Yeah, I mean, a nice cleanse from Matt G. Caddy, unfortunately, not pressing tab before using that ultimate. Means that Matt G is able to get a free ulti alongside that Seraphine Encore. But it is going to be a little bit interesting. I'm curious because looking at Kindred's items, she is fairly strong right now, but a Xin Zhao who has a Caulfield's Warhammer is honestly probably just as strong as this Kindred with more items. Just because Kindred is sort of more of a fragile champion, and so if she gets caught out at all, is going to be able to get popped very quickly, and also does not have that Lamb's Respite to keep herself alive. But we do see Birdo still going for this. This is really risky. I don't believe that Kindred should be ever allowed to walk up here.
Yeah, 4 members strong for Dorado Gaming. Omega already securing the area around the Rift Herald will mean it goes their way, and Banger looking to just walk in and drop it down mid lane immediately, it almost looks like.
It looked like they might have been trying to capitalize on Caddy backing on Vision there. But with the mark spawning on the bottom crab again, they're going to be looking to deny Birdo a second mark. Sorry, a third mark on this Kindred, as she was able to pick up, I believe, a mark on that bot side fight onto Hoshiumi. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, this Kindred will probably be...
Here we go. Who's going to get it? It's going to be Smite stolen by Birdo, so that is the stack going away. Banger throws down the Crescent Guard to try and run away, but the concussive blow stun will connect. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble as well. Asleep and waiting to die. Frosty gets the killing spree.
Yeah, this is kind of the opposite of how I thought the early game would be going. I really thought that Dorado Gaming would be a lot stronger in this early game, as Hoshiumi's cut out.
Hoshiumi's in a bad spot. Flash, Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Frosty's going to get another one. 4 kills on the board for going Soulbert, and they're all on this mid laner.
I guess when it's skill gap, it doesn't matter if the Zoe is picked without the proper team. Frosty showing us just how important the Zoe pick is for them this game, doing a really nice job, as Bennett is getting a very nice trade.
Solo kill, Flappable Cargo is taking a ton of damage here. The Mercury Shred's not really doing too much for him. Devour going to be coming out and spitting back out, but he's got the Abyssal Voyage, but he can't finish the job as he goes down. Solo kill in the top lane for Bennett.
Bennett, the shining light of this Omega roster, currently getting a very nice solo kill onto Flappable Cargo, who is not really building any magic resistance and is only going for health against the Conqueror Zac, who's going to be doing some nice things. This is not really the Tom Kedge build that I was expecting. Bennett seems to be much more in the know of, you know, what is going on in the top lane meta in terms of item builds, because that Bomby Cinders does so much damage currently. Has only done about 360 damage to Flappable Cargo so far, but is still 360 extra damage that Bennett has done to that Tom Kench, purely with a health purchase that is going to be going into one of their items later on in this game.
Very efficient pickup there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because I would have expected Flappable to pick up maybe something like a... I mean, with the healing... Sorry, with anti-heal being buffed since the start of CCS. Ooh.
Yeah, Kitsune is landing every Sleepy Trouble Bubble that we've seen on screen so far, frankly.
Yeah, honestly, the directed camera may as well just be sitting on Frosty with how many abilities are being landed by the Zoe. But what I was going to say was that with anti-healing getting buffed since the end of last season, I wouldn't think it's, you know, beyond the scope of Flappable Cargo to pick up something like a Bramble Vest, even though it is armor into a purely AP champion in Zac, just to stop the healing from those blobs. Just because, honestly, the Zac healing I think is really underrated. I know that might sound a little stupid because everyone knows that Zac heals like quarter of his health every time he picks up a blob or something ridiculous like that. But denying the Zac, you know, just that sustain in lane would be so much better for Flappable Cargo, because while you do have the gray health healing yourself, Zac is going to be able to out-trade you and out-sustain you. But with this second dragon spawning, and I want to say about a minute's time, we are going to see both teams sort of angling towards this bot side.
About 10 seconds is the spawn
hold
timer.
on.
Here we go. Frosty coming forward. He's going to land the Sleepy Trouble. The gravity field goes down. Here comes the Zac. Bennett coming in, but it will immediately get knocked up by the Abyssal Voyage. Looks for the Stretching Strikes. He's going to knock up 2. The Chaos Storm is just burning him away. And the Dredgeline connects. The Death Guard on Frosty in the backside. But they're trying to focus on Michael's target. But here comes Caddy. Throws up the Unbreakable. The Glacial Fissure comes out and knocks him out. The Crescent Guard trying to disengage. But there's the concussive blow. Frosty goes unstoppable. Abyssal Voyage flashed away from Bennett. And now they're on the run. The Dredgeline comes in for Hoshiumi. But I don't know if he wanted this one. He can get thunder back. Concussive blow flashes away to Deki. Pulls nothing up. Wolf jumps down and finishes the job. Burrow goes in under the tower, drops the laser, nothing quite finish up Bennett. 5-4 from Bossy to get back there. But Machi in the rocket jump in the backside, flashing away for the Encore. Just lands away from that one. The Devourer comes out, but Machi cannot escape. Bennett is not able to finish off Frosty, and now is surrounded by low health members, but members nonetheless of going Soulbert will get knocked down into blobs. And actually, no, he didn't have the passive, it's just the kill.
Oh, what a wild fight from both teams there. I mean, we're seeing the strength of this going Soulbert roster, just being able to constantly live and survive the engages from Dorado Gaming. I mean, we talked about it in draft. Dorado Gaming got a nice pick onto Flappable Cargo and Frosty, but did not have the burst damage to knock either of them down before support was able to arrive. Keep in mind, that first engage was not even enough to warrant Birdo using the Lamb's Respite. they were never low enough to even consider using that Kindred ulti, to the point where she was able to hold on to that to dive. I believe it was Kitsume and Bennett under the tower and save the Lamb's Respite to dive the tower. But I mean, a very nice play coming out of, going Soulbert. And at the center of it was Frosty, and I believe Caddy as well, was able to just have so much impact in that fight. Matt G was almost able to save it with their late arrival to the fight. But honestly, it was a little unfortunate. Used the Buster Shot onto Flappable Cargo, but the Buster Shot was buffered by the Devour, and so the Tristana actually went on. Yeah,
rocketing himself away from his own tower.
No. Towards it was just towards the top catch anyway. So a little bit unfortunate, but with that, going Soulbert is going to pick up their second dragon of the game, as well as a 3K gold lead. And honestly, this is a little bit worrisome if you're Dorado Gaming, because while you do scale, you don't scale as well as the going Soulbert roster, but they are going to be able to pick up this bottom tower, which is going to be, I believe, the second tower of the game after mid tower fell for the red side.
Herald is going to be started up. It looks like Banger and Bennett trying to get into a position to contest this one, but Kitsume not able to make the rotation over. They'll probably just have to give up on this one. Another objective going the way of going Soulbert.
Yeah, with another objective going over towards the Soulbert roster. It is a little bit worrisome because I don't really know how to stop this this snowball from going, unless you continue to fight if you're Dorado Gaming, because I mean, the only actual way that you go is you wait for Victor to scale and pray that you don't give up any more than this 2,000 gold lead that you've managed to fall behind. But if they're able to hold on, I mean, 2K gold lead is very fightable for this entire game. But we do see a potential play on this top side here as Bennett is going to collect the wave.
Elastic Slingshot didn't actually connect, I don't think. The Stretching Strikes will, but they're just opting to ignore the Zac as they start to focus on the tower. But here comes Hoshiyumi. It's going to go for the route onto Flappable Cargo with the auto attack, but they don't feel comfortable about this one. Maybe they do. Dreadline going to come in, but the Stretching Strikes will not connect. Bennett actually taking a huge chunk of damage coming out from Birdo with a Kraken Slayer already finished, and that Executioner's calling the Grievous Wounds like you're talking about.
Yeah, Birdo must be listening to the stream to understand how important these Grievous Wounds are. But Bennett taking a whole lot of damage.
Not to mention,
not have the passive.
Zac healing, you also have the Radiant Virtue healing to deal with, so that Grievous Wounds is getting a lot of value here. There's the Let's Bounce going to be used. Geez, Rocket Jump will be interrupted by the Glacial Finisher, but the Gravity Field will disengage the fight. The Chaos Storm is just ticking away. Not going to be lethal anytime soon, but Frosty will connect to Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but nice blocking team will deny the Paddle Star connection.
Yeah, the Unbreakable coming out from Caddy was really strong. They're just showing how much value this Braum Shield has had throughout the entire game. As Hoshiyumi is
target, they're gonna get the Sleepy Trouble Bubble and the Sleep. Banger goes in, pressing guard, going to be trying to spread the team out. Birdo will finally fall without having used the Land's Respite. That Rocket jumps in, but cannot finish off Caddy, and will just get taken down by Frosty. Banger over the wall did finally get Caddy, but not in time to reset the Rocket Jump. Here's the Gravity Field from Kitsume. They're gonna try and get onto Frosty. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble will be sidestepped, but Kitsume cannot follow through on this one. And there's the knockout from Flappable Cargo, looking for Kitsume. Is going to get the Devour off, knocked out by Banger, throws down the Grey Helm Shield. Does he have enough? Over the wall comes Frosty, sticks with the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but over the wall comes Bennett with the Elastic Slingshot to pick up the kill.
Ooh, I don't know about Zac taking that kill. I think Kitsume could have been able to grab that one themselves. But I mean, the Zac is going to be able and has been showing that they're capable of putting out some good damage and pressure this game so far. But Dorado Gaming doing a nice job turning what looked like a very scary fight into a good win. Matt G got themselves into a bit of a troublesome situation with that engage on the backside of the fight. A little bit unfortunate. I believe they just got a one shot by the Tom Kench. But honestly, a very good job to be able to pull back some kills there. Keeping the gold lead about the same, but honestly, being able to increase their own gold coffers. Dorado Gaming picking up some nice completed items there. In the Kraken Slayer and the Cleaver for Banger. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about this Cleaver first for the Xin Zhao. This is a very common build path for champions like Xin Zhao and Vi, where they often will opt to go for a Cleaver or a what's it called? A Chempunk Chainsword. Yep. As their first item before their tank mythic. But it's going to be interesting because I think you could get so much value out of anti-heal if you're Dorado Gaming this game. I mean, just looking at the champions, right? You have the Kindred who has a passive where she heals after walking a certain amount of steps. You have a Seraphine who literally just heals your entire team so much during a fight. You have
Frosty getting jumped on by Banger is going to follow up with a knockup. Here's the rocket jump coming in for onto Frosty from Matt G, but that will not get him at the safety. Here comes the teleport from Flammable Cargo trying to finish off Banger. Will devour him up. A teleport coming out from Bennett to try and back the button on this one. X-Tech Gate's going to be used to try and escape. Here comes Berto and Soulbert on the backside. Stretch line on the other side. Here's Bennett getting jumped on. He's going to have the strike. Benji smashing up the wall. Watch himself come out. Let's bounce is being used. Lace of Finish trying to disengage the fight. Banger throws in a little bit of spear damage over the side. They got in the block. Here's the pressing guard. Here's the encore. It's huge. A lot of damage, but the pressing guard is denying a lot of it onto this intel. Banger can still go in. He's still going. Flammable Cargo going very low, but it's a double kill for the Sinzao. As now Berto, the last remaining member of Going Soulbert, getting chased down by the remaining members of Dorado Gaming Omega.
Oof. Berto being able to get out of there with just a little bit of health left. It was a little bit of a sloppy fight coming out from Going Soulbert. They kind of left their Seraphine on the back line to die while committing onto the bot side, but a very nice pick coming out.
Berto gets found over the wall. Banger's going to get the rock up into the elastic slingshot. The Layers Respite has no chance of going down with all of the bouncy housing coming out from Dorado Gaming Omega.
Yeah, and this all started with a very nice pick onto Frosty 6 from Banger on that Zinchao, doing a very nice job to chain CC them after knocking them, or after getting the challenge mark. And, you know, after that fight, we see Dorado Gaming rocket to a 1.2k gold lead after being down about 2,000 gold. And so this is going to be a really scary game if you're going Soulbert, right? We talked about how once the Steam train gets going for Dorado Gaming, it could be a little bit difficult for them to play. And this Seraphine is going a full damage build, which means she's not going to be putting out those massive heals with the items like, you know, a Moonstone or an Ardent Sensor. She instead is going to be looking for some auxiliary magic damage alongside that, you know, very strong Zoe. And honestly, it's kind of scary because Banger now has 2 full items, has a lot of health. You have the Nautilus with that finished Locket of the Iron Solari as well. And Matt G, rather, is going to be finished with those 2 items with the recently buffed Navori's Quick Blades, as well as a Kraken Slayer, which should be looking to shred through any of these tanks as they pop up. As Berto pulls the blue buff a little bit out of Frosty's range. But it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
I gotta say, the Quick Blades is kind of a question mark for me. Because Quick Blades is an item that you use to enhance the damage of your abilities when you're building crit already. Most of Tristana's damage is in fact from auto attacks, so I feel as though the Infinity Edge is just a lot more valuable on this champion than the Quick Blades. Not to mention, Quick Blades also scales with the amount of crit, how much damage it applies to your abilities. So a lot of times, even though you can build it at 40% crit now, you're still seeing players opt for another crit item before you go for the Navori Quick Blades third. So I'm not entirely sure whether this build is mathematically correct, but Matt G with the aggressive rocket jumps maybe is going to get some value out of it.
The idea with Quick Blades on Tristana actually is more so towards that. Well, Flammable Cargo
from the
is going to get
charge.
caught.
Yeah, here we go. Tristana going to connect, and they're going to just have a lot of CC available. He's already used the Abyssal Voyage to try and get out, but they just don't have the damage with these 3 particular members.
Yeah, there's no heal cut on Dorado Gaming, which means the Flammable Cargo.
Oh wow, they're actually just gonna go for the Devour onto Bennett, spin him out under power. They got a lot, Elastic Slingshot and the Let's Bounce. The Radiant Virtue healing is quite substantial. Here comes Soulbert, only gonna get 1 of the Encore there. This Locket coming down. On the other side though, Caddy's getting jumped on. Banger comes over the wall. Here comes Matt G to follow up. But Caddy goes down, a double kill for the Tristana so far as Frosty now gonna get jumped on. Rocket jump for Matt G's got another one. He's gonna go down to the tower, but not before taking out a large number of Going Soulbert.
Flammable Cargo is the only one who survives that fight, despite being the one initially caught out. But what I was gonna say, I mean, it was a very nice fight from Dorado Gaming. They found the kills that they were going for. I didn't quite see what happened on the top side of the fight, but without the heal cut, Flammable Cargo was able to survive much of that fight, as it looks like Dorado Gaming is gonna potentially try and bait here, but is gonna find a ward for their troubles, as Barry's just gonna walk it out. What I was gonna say about the Navori Quick Blades on Tristana is that when she builds it, she basically has a 0-second cooldown on her Q if she's autoing the whole time.
Oh, I see. That's true. So, you're right. I completely overlooked the idea that you're just getting your cooldowns reduced on your abilities as well. So yeah, you just have like a huge amount of uptime on your explosive charge, huh?
Yeah, on your explosive charge, on your... What is her Q called, honestly? Her Q is called...
Rapid Fire. It's just
Rapid Fire. Yeah, so yeah, your Rapid Fire gets significantly reduced throughout the entire fight. And Matchy is not really autoing too much. They're kind of just been jumping in and dying. But when Tristana does find the opportunities to auto attack, they will be able to use that rapid fire off cooldown essentially for the entire fight. But what was really interesting going on is that I believe Birdo got caught in that fight just up on the top side, which meant that the damage coming out from going Soulbert was
relatively low.
Was mostly coming from that second tier tower. And honestly, it did a whole lot of damage. It took down Hoshiumi. It took down Matt G. I believe it also... no, it almost took down Banger. But honestly, with this Dragon coming up in 40 seconds, Dorado Gaming have a very nice ward setup on this bot side. And I wonder if they're actually going to get back to River in time to defend it. Bennett is going to be sitting in that bush there, but it appears as though going Soulbert has opted to take those Raptors instead of using the time to set up in the river.
Yeah, this will be Dragon coming up in 20 seconds or so. Scuttle Crab already secured by the side of Dorado Gaming Omega, but Soulbert and Birdo trying to get that mid-wave pushed out so they can kind of get a better view of where Dorado Gaming Omega is stationed. They've got Banger and Bennett kind of hiding out in the side brush here, maybe looking for the flank as the members of Going Soulbert kind of come into this area and start up the Dragon. But Flammable Cargo doing a nice job of making space, just standing there, making sure that the backline can't come in. But here comes Banger and Bennett. They're going to look for the fight on this one. It's going to be secured by the Going Soulbert as the Crescent Guard is used. The Seeking Trouble Bubble is going to connect, but nicely used by the Crescent Guard to block away the Paddle Star damage. Here's the Depth Sword coming out. Knock up a lot of damage coming down. They're going in onto Soulbert. Soulbert flashing over the wall. Here's the concussive blows and the Sleepy Trouble Bubble popping onto Hoshiumi. Flammable Cargo in the backside is just ready to try and eat up Kitsume. The knockup coming out. There's a lot of damage. They knocked down the blob. Kitsume flashing away, and they're gonna take down these blobs as they've just got to deal with Matt G pushing in that mid lane. And there's the flash coming out. Banger is just still on the run. Flash for the Secret Trouble Bubble. Sidestepped away from by Banger, but maybe that's the space that Frosty needed to catch up. They've got a little bit coming out, and they're just going to keep on chasing. The Abyssal Voyage coming out. Banger is going to get slowed up by the Tongue Lash. Finally caught by Secret Trouble Bubble. Goes golden with the stopwatch, dodging away from the Paddle Star, but they've got the root. They've got the kill. It's going to be shut down going over to Birdo.
Yeah, I mean, Banger did a good job stalling for a lot of time. Bennett and Kitsume have TP, but this Baron is going to be gone long before that's possible. Yeah. Dorado Gaming
getting flash tongue lash, Buster shots away, Flammable Cargo, and it will just be the Baron started up and probably here finished up by going Soulbert as their AD carry gets chased away by Flammable Cargo.
I'm going to be honest, Dorado Gaming lost that fight from the very start. Once Matchy was tied up by Flammable Cargo without any support, it was completely doomed because you lost almost all of your consistent DPS from that Tristana. From the beginning of the fight, they chased forward with, trying to meet up with Bennett and Banger, but no one was able to actually escort that Tristana to the fight. And as a result, again, as I said before, lacking damage, lacking the ability to burn down these frontliners in the Braum, in the Tahm Kench. And so as a result, Going Soulbert has a very nice fight where, they didn't really have to put up with much damage coming out from Dorado Gaming. Kitsume is going for an interesting build. I don't really like the Shadow Flame this game. There are a good amount of shields, coming from the Braum, the Seraphine, and the Tahm Kench. But I think going for something more like a Leandry's into Void Staff would probably be a lot better for them this game, just purely for this fact that they're able to curve out a little bit more on par with the rest of their team, as well as shred through these tanks in the early game. Just because they're really not doing it currently. There's just not enough damage coming out from this Victor onto the frontliners of Going Soulbert. And so as a result, we're going to see what they're able to do. Zoe landing a crazy bubble onto Victor is not going to go for it with the portal hop, but is instead going to just do what Zoe does. And this is kind of the situation that Dorado Gaming did not want to fall into, because as a result, it just means that Frosty is going to have full range of these jungles. Ooh, Bennett.
Bennett might be caught here. He's gonna look for the last 16 shot out, but he's gonna fall asleep really close actually there. Birdo actually just going for the chase here, but we'll back off on this one. I don't hate the Shadow Flame. There's not any MR built up by the Zoe and the Kindred and the Seraphine, who you're really going for, and even when you don't get like the full-on value from hitting a shield, which you can still get depending on their HP. But it's a good burst option. It's just a question of, do you want burst or do you want more sustained damage? In which case, like you said, maybe the Void Stab into something like with a little bit more ability haste is better. The Shadow Flame, still a pretty efficient pickup. Now Matt G again is just sort of solo pushing in this mid, trying to force down this inhibitor. His team is going to have to hold up against Baron minions, but looks like they're able to successfully do so.
I think Machi forgot that he's not playing top lane anymore and is not supposed to be split pushing the whole game. But no, what else?
Comes Flappable Cargo over the side. He's going to get in with the Abyssal Voyage, and there's the Tongue Lash. Buster shots him away. Matt G just pushes him away, gets devoured immediately after taking the tower, and will get soloed out by Flappable Cargo, the shutdown going his way.
I mean, you're trading gold there, right? In Machi's mind, it looks like a little bit of a silly death to die like that, but Machi just picked up almost 700 gold there from taking that tower in favor of, Flappable Cargo being able to maybe finish that Bramble Vest there or work towards a different item. But no, what I was going to say before about this victory is because while they don't have any magic resistance now, if you look at the teams, you see that they're going to start building magic resistance. You see Tom Kench finishing that Spirit Visage. And the item that Kitsume wants to build next is going to be that Death Cap. And so if you're waiting until, your fourth item to be buying Void Staff, the game could very well be over there and you're not able to have as much of an impact as you might like to have. But
oh yeah, I completely agree. Void Staff, if you need to be especially in this situation where probably the only one you're going to be able to hit is Tom Kench a lot of the time, that's fine. I completely agree with you. I'm just saying, like, Shadow Flame is not like a wholly terrible pickup.
If you're not super far behind in this game and you're able to build Shadow Flame, it's really good. But we are gonna see. Ooh, this is Soul actually for the side of going Soulbert, and Matt G
is unloading a little bit of damage here as the Unbreakable and the Guardian coming out on a Frosty, a big shield coming out, and Slapbone Cargo just going in. Banger over the side is just gonna go for the steal. Birdo flashing away, and there's the Lamb's Respite as the Encore has been used. Matt G just cannot find a way to auto attack in this fight, and Soulbert goes on a rampage as Bennett falls down in the first kill of the fight. Banger finally gonna go down into the Guardian Angel as Kitsume drops the gravity field. Here's another flash available for Frosty as they're gonna try and focus down Banger over there. Hoshiumi gonna get taken out by Frosty, the hero of this game, for going Soulbert 10-2-10. And they're gonna pick up Dragon Soul.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to flame, but Machi is losing them fights here by, constantly just joining from the wrong side, not being with their team, getting, poked out by Frosty 6. I mean, great job from going Soulbert there, being able to secure the Dragon Soul there, and picking up that Hextech Dragon is going to be very nice with that extra ability haste and attack speed, I believe. And they might honestly be looking to charge for a win here. With Banger dead for another 15 seconds, they are at least going to take down one of these towers. I don't think it's going to be possible.
Gravity Field interrupts the Abyssal Voyage, but they're just gonna Frosty just gonna fly in and almost take him out. But Soulbert burning away from the Leandries will get the shield onto himself in the backside. Here's Bennett with the Let's Bounce, just jumping all over him. They do finally take down Soulbert, but now Flappable Cargo looking for Kitsume will get the power off. Is it enough damage? It is, but the explosive charge from Matt G will get the return kill. Now, they're going to use the Hex Gates, and they're moving forward. Baron is spawning in about 30 seconds, and Birdo hasn't taken a recall yet, still very low.
Yeah,
and might just go for the counter Baron here.
Yeah, going Soulbert just did that while knowing that Baron is going to be coming up if they were to die. Soulbert's not going to spawn until after this Baron. Flappable Cargo does have TP, but isn't going to spawn.
Frosty comes out of the jungle right into the waiting arms of a bunch of members of Dorado Gaming Omega. They're actually just looking to push down mid here.
Yeah, Dorado might look for a counter end.
Birdo and Caddy haven't just now finished their recall. The inhibitor going to go down. They've got a minion wave here. If they can just tank it with any of their two tanky members. And now Caddy gonna throw up the Unbreakable, trying to stop the auto attacks from hitting the tower. Here's the Strategy Strikes, and Caddy throws down the Glacial Fishes. The first Nexus Tower is fallen. Here's Soulbert with the Encore. It's gonna get blocked up. They're gonna try and finish the game. The minions here. Teleport coming in. Rocket jump away from Matt G. Birdo is just unloading onto them. Hoshiumi gonna fall. Soulbert is there. Bennett is gonna fall into the blobs, and they can't finish the job.
What is happening? Why are these and now going Soulbert is gonna run down to the other side of the map and end the game. They have a super minion. They're just gonna walk it down. Hoshiumi, Kitsume, and Bennett are all dead for 30 seconds plus. Machi and Banger do not have the HP to hold them back, and I think that going Soulbert is just gonna end the game here. Dorado Gaming had a very nice potential chance to counter end there. I think they took maybe a little bit too long getting the base, or maybe they just overcommitted. I mean, that's one of those plays where I think Dorado is like, we either win right here or it's lost for us. And I like this from going Soulbert. They realized that Xin Zhao and Tristana might be able to hold off long enough for them, for the rest of their team members to spawn. They still do have 2 towers to chew through, and so they're doing the conservative play and going for this Baron. And the fact that that Baron is the conservative play, tells you something about this game, considering we just saw 2 end attempts get thwarted by overcommitment. And, whoa. All right, going Soulbert doing a very nice job picking up that Baron, and there is only a 3,500 gold difference between these teams. Um, ooh, boy.
Yeah, wow. That looked like the end for going Soulbert. They were supposed to end the game there, and then they just kind of got wiped in the enemy base. And then Dorado Gaming Omega, like you said, go for the counter end. They're not able to finish the job. I think if they had focused on the towers, they might have had a chance to do so, but some people pick up tower aggro that they're not supposed to. Some of them are hitting the champion, some of them are hitting the towers. They're a little bit split in that decision here, but here comes Elder Dragon spawning in about 2.5 minutes, not now.
Yeah,
it looks like it's just a push from Soulbert.
It's what's gonna be happening is Soulbert is gonna be standing in this mid lane. Oh, Matchies.
Oh yeah, kind of dangerous. Kitsume actually is gonna get slowed up by the flash, having to go in, gravity field, and that's a big encore over the side. Soulbert gets Kitsume, and Matt G is forced to rocket jump to safety. Flammable cargo is gonna get the devour down onto Bennett, and Bennett is gonna let's bounce, gets the Radiant Virtue healing, but it's not gonna be enough. Frosty takes him down, and that's 2 members dead for Dorado Gaming. Here comes the end attempt from going Soulbert. That's a lot of damage coming out. Matt G just trying to auto, but he gets rooted up. Banger throws down the Crescent Guard, and they're just getting chased into their own fountain by Flammable Cargo. Hoshium is already fallen. A double kill for the Kindred, as this is the end. Going Soulbert going to be taking Game 1 of the series and Game 1 of the Classic Championship Series Season 2.
Yeah, a very nicely played game from going Soulbert. They were able to survive that counter end attempt from Dorado Gaming Omega. And as a result, they're able to pick up that win, the first win of Dorado Gaming Intermediate for the spring? Is it spring split? Yeah, for the spring of 2023. I'm sure both teams are kicking themselves that the game ended the way it did. Soulbert being like, oh my God, why was that so close? And Dorado Gaming being like, I feel like we should have just hit the tower. But either way, was very nicely played from both teams. I think both teams know that they can potentially change it up a little bit. They have a bunch of stuff that was clearly evident in that first game that they could work on. But honestly, both comps played out about what we expected. We kind of, thought that if going Soulbert was able to get ahead and stay, even with Dorado Gaming Omega, that they were going to be unkillable in this game. And we saw that, right? We saw the Tristan and the Victor not be able to break through that front line. We saw a little glimmer of hope from, Bennett and Banger being able to make some plays on that top side against the Tom Kench, but ultimately Birdo and Frosty were able to really bring that game home with the amount that they were able to put up in that game. And honestly, I'm excited. I feel like this might be a 3-game series. Birdo topping out the damage charts there with almost 40k, doing a very nice job.
Yeah, really nice first game for coming out from going Soulbert. We'll get into game number 2 after a short break. So thanks everyone for watching the Classic Championship Series Intermediate League. We'll be right back as we get set up for game number 2. Internet, hello and welcome back to our coverage of the first series here on the Classic Championship Series Season 2 Intermediate League between Going Soulbert and Dorado Gaming Omega. We just watched game number 1 where Soulbert, after a little bit of a uh, very precarious situation towards the very end, at least, they were able to come out ahead and take down Dorado Gaming Omega, who are coming into the series as the runners-up from last season. Uh, but like you said, or like we've mentioned, at this season, everyone starts at the same point. We're all starting from the same starting line. And Going Sober have one game up in this series.
Yeah, Going Soul doing a nice job to finish out that game. It looked a little bit scary when both teams were trying to end on each other without the proper setup. But in the end, Going Soul able to hold on to that lead that they created for themselves, and pick up their first game win of the season, against the again second the runners up of last season. Granted, again they did have a few roster changes, but I think that they are, still potential. They still have the potential to do a lot of great things. Um, I mean, doing a really nice job. Frosty and Berto, teaming up to do great things in that last game. We saw the invade early on, onto the blue side of Xinjiao, being able to pick up that kill where Frosty, I think, probably is going to get, a a possible season highlight there, TPing out of that fight after flashing to pick up the kill onto Banger. But I mean, I'm gonna be interested to see what we go or what we do going into this draft. The teams have stayed on the same side as that first game, and I'm curious if Dorado Gaming will be expecting that Seraphine pick, because it seems like they don't really have they had the answer for it, but they sort of trailed away from what they thought was going to be that they trailed away from what they thought was going to be the answer for it. But we are going to go into the draft now. Ash and Talia remaining the same bans for either side in this first phase. Um,
Yeah.
I don't
Looks
think.
like Dorado Gaming Omega, by the way, as the losers of the game number 1, they had side selection, we presume, and they opted to stay on the red side. So we might, like, based on what's going on right now, we might just see, hey, it was fine, our draft was fine, let's just run it back and play better this time from Dorado Gaming Omega.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I think a salty run back could be interesting, I don't know if we're gonna see it potentially. Going silver probably doesn't have to change anything. They might come out with this Silas ban here again. Going for that Seraphine pick is what they've determined is the best pick so far. I should be seeing a Silas ban. Ooh, we're
Uh,
probably gonna get a no
s-
ban.
okay.
Uh,
Uh,
interesting, but I imagine we'll get an answer for you shortly.
it's meant
Um,
to be Victor. It's meant to be Victor.
uh, So last ban is going to be a victor. So two mid bans coming out
Uh,
against Goat. Is that Goaty? No, it's Kitsume.
Yep. And the
Okay.
Seraphine ban means that the Caitlyn that was banned in its place in game number 1 will be the B1 pick for Going Soulbert.
Interesting we still ban Seraphine when the Silas is up as a counter pick potentially. But with Caitlyn being picked up, it is going to be a little bit interesting for Dorado Gaming Omega because typically people respond to Caitlyn with one of two things. They pick either something like a Zaya, which is just going to be able to scale up and play well, or they pick something to counter push like a Varus. And I'm curious to see. Yep, there it's going to be. It's going to be Ezreal, and I imagine something like a Karma might be picked up as well alongside Ezreal, as it is the standard pairing to counter push against Caitlyn.
Yeah, Ezreal Karma, nice little combo there to try and push out. Caitlyn really likes to be in the situation where she's pushing and hitting you under tower, hitting your tower when she's got the free time. And the Silas will be picked up. This was something else that was banned in game number 1 by Going Soulbert, and it was let through in favor of a Victor ban instead. So now Going Sober with the Silas already locked in, they kind of have an idea. Hey, we should pick what we need to, but try to avoid giving him these really good ultimates.
Yeah, interesting that they banned the Seraphine when Silas was still on the table for them. Like we just said, if you were planning on picking the Silas anyway, it's kind of really curious as to why you'd ban it away. Maybe Banger just believes that it is by far, hands down, the best pick on the patch. Um, and it doesn't pair the best with Ezreal either, because you have Ezreal who's trying to be like a kite back poke champion, and you have Silas who is a full on engage. We are going to go in and trade kills sort of pick. As well as picking it early just means that you don't really have to pick good ultimates. Like none of these ultimates are really good for the Silas. Syndra ulti generally is pretty good, but not for Silas in my opinion. just because you don't really get the same damage. You don't get the buff
And you don't get the
from
execute.
yeah, you don't get the execute. You don't get the buff from Syndra's passive abilities. And so an interesting pick from Banger, but I'm curious to see if Omega has a pick here on 3 that they would like to counter the Syndra with, or if it's just going to be something like a Karma.
Yeah. I don't really hate that they banned the Seraphine. The Seraphine, I think, like, aside from just being something that Soulbert said they're willing to pick up on blue side, it means that they're something they're very comfortable with. Maybe you get a lot of value out of banning the Seraphine by putting Soulbert onto something he's less comfortable on. That being said, he might be very comfortable on Caitlyn. But maybe Dorado Gaming Omega are onto something that I don't know. But the missing ban is Victor, for anyone asking. Um, and aside from that, yeah, you can steal the Seraphine ultimate, but Seraphine still has a very nice kit for making these team fights very, very difficult for Dorado Gaming Omega. The last the or Going into the second round of bans after the Ari pickup, which we should talk about. Lux is going to be taken off the board, kind of the classic partner to Caitlyn in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and there's one of two bans left for Dorado Gaming to go for. It might be that Morgana or it might be that Karma. It seems that they sort of are not willing to pair the Ezreal with the Karma unless, it's still left up. I mean, of all the things, it's not really a Hoshiumi champ. We think of Hoshiumi and we think of, super hard engage, as I say, it gets banned. We think of super hard engage like the Amumu, Nautilus, or Alistar. Um, I'm gonna say this, and it might sound crazy. Hoshi has been known to play Silas support,
Oh,
unironically.
uh-huh. So this is
Um,
a potential flex here for this Silas. Could go to Banger, could go to Hoshiumi. Is
I think
your
we'll find out right now if it's a flex or not.
Yeah.
But Hoshi does play it and has been known. I could see it potentially being a decent pairing with Ezreal. The chains have a decent amount of poke, but into something like a Caitlyn, I don't really know how it would work. I assume we're gonna see something out of Hoshi here on this fourth pick.
Oh,
Yep.
Annie.
Yeah, Annie has been something that's been popping up a whole lot. It's been a very nice Maokai counter, as her shield does burn away his health, when she blocks saplings. But it is also just a very nice pick to get pushed with the Ezreal. It has very long range on those auto attacks, um, and is going to be something that can threaten the Caitlyn and the Syndra as this game goes on. Don't really know how much burst it'll have from the support role. I know it's been played mid a lot, um, but it should be a nice pairing with that Ezreal as we move into the second round of picks for going Soulbert. Mundo going to be the lock-in.
Yeah, Mundo locked in, as you see, at least 2.5 magic damage coming out with Silas, Ari, Annie. Mundo and generally tanky champions fare very well into heavy magic damage compositions. Um, I want to talk about the Annie support because it's something that Annie and Aurelion Soul kind of popped up together as they both kind of got these gameplay updates to their kits. Annie just uh having the shield be a lot more powerful in her kit. You can shield your allies. I mean, you could always shield not always, but you've been able to shield your allies, and now it's a little bit more power invested into that ability. Your stun, you get some quality of life stuff. So, and we've seen Annie support crop up in the past. I think in season 3 or 4 or something like that. But interesting to see it come up here again. Going Soulbert locking in the Gallia, which will presumably going into the support role, and Yone as the last pickup into that top lane as the counter to Dr. Mundo.
Yeah, I don't know how this matchup goes. I would have liked to have seen maybe something more like a Camille out of the top lane here. I think that does a lot better into the Mundo, and to the team in general. Because Yone kind of is sort of you go in, you blow all your spells, and then you pop out. And if you killed someone, great. If you didn't, it's kind of unfortunate, because you're out of gas. But I mean, looking at this Dorado gaming team, they would like to fight all the time. And going Soulbert is sort of the same thing that they did last time, where they're sort of just trying to out sustain you and let their carries, really exist in the front to back. Um, it's gonna be interesting because I don't think I assume this is Galio support into the Annie, which is a unique counter pick considering Galio does have that magic shield in the lane, should be able to take the poke from that Annie Q's and be able to get bush priority.
Yeah, and
Um,
as far as mid lane Annie goes, one of the ways you like soft counter it is by abusing the fact that compared to a lot of other like mage type champions, Annie's abilities are relatively low range. Maybe Galio is able to force the Annie into a position where if she wants to use her ability, she has to be in range to get taunted. If she gets taunted, she's Annie and could potentially just die during the duration of the taunt. Follow it up with a Yordle Snap Trap coming out from Soulbert on Caitlyn. Uh, so there's that kind of like soft counter that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Mundo, Galio, and Trundle really aren't gonna be ever worried about getting hit by a charm or hit by a Tibbers with stun. So I mean, going Solbert doing a really nice job finding a way to adapt and draft. Not really offering Silas too many good ultis. I mean, really the only one that he's gonna be able to take every fight and make use of will be Doctor Mundo's ulti. And maybe I guess with the front line you've picked, Trundle ulti might not be that bad for Silas this game. Could be a potential self counter from that Mundo, from that Galio. But I mean, again, this is one of those games where Dorado Gaming sort of has to get the ball rolling early if they would like to, stay in this game, stay, on pace with going Solbert. We probably are going to see Leandris come out from the Ari this game. It's kind of unfortunate because he would like to go that Everfrost, but um, you don't really have the luxury to do it. Silas, I don't think he's gonna go Night Harvester, but I think something maybe like a Roa could be a little bit better this game because you do need to be that front line. Because Annie and Tibbers are not going to survive that long against the Mundo Trundle Galio. And Yone most likely will be in the back line, not really frontlining for that Ezreal for that Ari. So Dorado Gaming does have an interesting comp,
Yeah.
but it is
So
certainly much harder to play.
in the jungle, Silas actually ends up building surprising amount of health. Night Harvester has health on it. Your second item is Shadow Flame, which has health on it. Morello, like you said, will have health on it, and I really like the idea of building Morello on Silas jungle because Silas jungle, as compared to mid Silas, is a lot more burst focused, and Morello did get buffed to have that flat magic penetration on it, which can be good against low magic damage or low magic resist targets like Syndra, like Caitlyn, who is going to be who you want to be hitting ideally anyways. Um,
I
but
can see
it's
Morello's
just going
being
to
a
be really
nice
difficult to get through Dr. Mundo and Trundle.
I can see Morello's being a nice rush for Annie this game potentially. Annie or Silas even. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I I don't know. It all depends on the pace at which Banger is able to get off in this game. If he's on pace even with the entirety of going Silbert, I think going the regular Night Harvester build would be good. Um, but if not, I feel like he has to sort of default down and probably go for a Zonia second or something like that.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
because if you're losing your camp, if you're losing priority in your waves, it's going to be impossible to play as Silas. And Trundle actually is going to be a little bit dangerous against the Silas early game because Silas is not really healthy in his first clear whatsoever. And Trundle being, a clear 3 and gank champion could very easily look for an invade, with the early priority that he's going to get from that Galio and from that Caitlyn, as well as the Syndra, because I believe Syndra pushes better than Ari on the first 2 waves or so. Um, just being able to pop out those orbs of destruction. But we are going to see, what this game holds for us. Again, a lot of skill potential from Omega and a very nice standard front to back from Soulbert.
Yeah, we have to say, like, Banger, he's gonna have to get something done early, but he was getting things done early quite well in that last game. He got that first blood gank onto the top laner with the help of Bennett. He was kind of making plays all over the place on that Xin Zhao, just absorbing a lot of skills with the Crescent Guard and then just dashing around and killing people. If he can get going on something like Silas, maybe he's able to catapult his team with a little bit of a uh, more well-rounded team composition than last game to a victory in game number 2. We'll ask you the same question as I asked in game number 1. Silas or Trundle, nameplates off, which champion would you rather be playing?
I honestly couldn't tell you which one I prefer this game because it's going to be a nightmare for Trundle to try and hit anyone on Omega. Um, but Silas as well is not going to be able to do any damage to going Soulbert in this game, uh, unless he's able to somehow sneak past those 3 frontline champions and the taunt from Galio to land a chain onto Syndra or Caitlyn. So if I had to pick one, if you gun to your head have to pick one, I probably would say Trundle purely because I can exist on the front line and hold off those champions for my Ari or for my Caitlyn and Syndra to hit. Um, and I just think Trundle probably has an easier time this game.
Yeah, and do you think that like just their team compositions that going Soulbert just kind of has an advantage overall in the draft, or
Absolutely. It's
all
a lot
right?
ease of execution. Is definitely for going Soulberts. Dorado Gaming Omega has got to be, you know, they got to be on their toes. They cannot make a mistake.
Yeah.
And
And I kind of agree.
yeah,
And ever so slightly, I also think scaling is probably in favor of going Soulbert. I generally think of Caitlyn as being a stronger scaling champion than Ezreal. It's a lot closer now that Ezreal's building this Kraken Slayer plus Navori Quickblades build, which I think is very cool. But in any case, we have about 30 seconds left on the spectator delay. We're gonna have to set up anyway, so we're gonna go to a short break. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in just a little bit. Internet, hello and welcome back to our coverage of the Going Soulbert versus Dorado Gaming Omega series here. We are getting into game number 2 with Going Soulbert one game ahead. Anything interesting to see
oh,
here?
I mean,
Nope, looks like
we're
they just
seeing
get scouted.
Dorado. Yeah, we're seeing Dorado go for the 5-man invade this time. Although they did not drop any wards, which means that going Soulbert is going to get the advantage here. A little bit strange. I would have thought that Dorado would have gone for a ward. Maybe they're trying to look for Soulbert. Actually, I could see it. They were looking for Soulbert in that tri-brush there, but Soulbert decided to go for the griefer way to walk to lane and sit in bush, instead of hovering tri. But it doesn't matter. Never punished. But I mean, just looking at things in this game, we are going to see the aftershock coming up from Caddy, which means that the Galio is really going to be looking to be that first point of engagement from the side of going Soulbert. If they'd gone for something like a Gale Force, maybe we could have expected Birdo or Flappable Cargo to be sort of the one going in first. But with the way that the runes are set up, Caddy expects to be the first one in the fight for enough of time where they need to take aftershock instead of glacial augment. But once again, jungler starting opposite red. Birdo is gonna generally know where Banger is starting, I believe.
Yeah,
Could be
and
wrong
Ben.
though.
Yeah, if not, he'll see him on this ward that they've dropped here right now.
Yep, Ping is going down onto that Silas there as Banger is gonna go for potentially the same 3 camp into top lane that he went for last game. This isn't going to be a good idea, especially, you know, oh, nope, Banger did not find the ward, by the way, earlier on. So, oh, no, he is just going to go for a different style of clear. Is going to be opting to skip those Krugs, which is a little bit interesting in this day and age because with the amount of, damage you do to the camps, and for the amount of time that I imagine Banger is about to be on the spot side, it's a little bit worrisome that he's
Yeah, you're not getting this. You're not getting the value, the gold, the EXP for this camp, and you're not getting it reset so you can get it a second time. So a lot of value lost if you aren't going to be clearing that anyways. So you're going to see Birdo coming around here looking for an invade onto the blue side for Banger. He hasn't taken his blue yet, and they're going to run into each other here fairly soon. Already having a little bit of a scuffle up there, but we can't see it. Just like the frozen domain, and Banger going to hop over the wall and take out a ward that he dropped there with his sweeper. Got the rotation coming in from Frosty as well.
We talked about this, right? We have the Kaelin and the Syndra pushing, which means that Birdo is allowed to walk in. Banger's going to be forced to...
Banger actually failed to see over the wall. Flash for the taunt over Banger. Going to get stunned up by the Scout of the Week. And First Blood goes over to Frosty of all people. Kitsume is exhausted over the side as Caddy's moving forward. He's going to have to back away now. A lot of damage on the Orb of Deception. And Caddy going very, very low, but the Pillar of Ice is almost there. Kitsume just getting kited out. The Charm going to connect on the Frosty, but that's the full health target. Hoshiumi, the cleanse coming out from Soulbert. The Scout of the Week stuns him up. Kitsume gets the nullifying orb popped. An interesting pickup for Kitsume there.
I mean, I think it's interesting. You have, right, you're trying not to get one-shot by Syndra later on. As
Batchi! Essence or Arcane shifts over the wall onto Soulbert. Soulbert does have the flash to survive.
Yeah, and that's a free flash that Soulbert has to burn because they decided to go for a trade that was not nearly allowed considering Matchy had dinged that level 3. It's a little bit unfortunate. It was really great for Birdo to begin with, but Soulbert moved from that bot wave a little bit too early and was not able to collect level 3 from the wave, I believe. Or maybe, or maybe it's Matt G was able to collect a little bit of solo experience, which meant that they were able to hit level 3 and get that arcade shift. But either way, a very nice early play going Soulbert. And so, as a result, it's going to be a very nice lead for that Syndra early on. It means she gets stacks and is able to pick up that early tier and amp tome. And Banger, again, went for, I don't know. I think it's really greedy. Once you fail your E there, he tried to sheepishly walk out on the bot side of that fight there. And got
like, hey, maybe nobody
it.
saw that I missed my E.
Yeah, I mean... Sorry, I read chat and read cringe, so I got distracted. My apologies. But yeah, I mean, Banger again making a little bit of a mistake there. I think you have to instantly flash if you fail that E on vision, it's something that I've done as well. Bennett is gonna be in a little bit of trouble here. Gets a very nice RNG on that canister. Actually, does canister is an RNG, right? Is it in the opposite direction from where you get CC'd?
I'm not sure actually. I don't know which direction it flies, but in any case, we did see Banger kind of hatch that ward a little bit there in that tri-brush, and now we've got Kitsume making his way up here as well. Birdo is gonna be clearing Grump and maybe come up here to assist Flappable Cargo, but Kitsume gonna get spotted out on that tri-brush ward as well. They're just gonna have to walk away without having gotten anything here.
Yeah, Kitsume selling the bag a little bit. With walking up to that tri-brush. I mean, very nice wards coming out from going Soulbert there, really protecting that top side there. As I knew that's where Banger would return to. Interesting. It drops...
Towards the enemy that CC'd you.
Towards the enemy that CC's you. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, Matchy has a decent XP lead, I believe, on Soulbert. Just from being able to get those waves in earlier. And it's going to be interesting. With this first dragon coming up, it seems as though Banger is opting to be really aggressive here and go for this lane gank, but it is going to get spotted out. Let's see if they pop their sweeper. They will find the ward and realize that they wasted it. Oh my goodness, wasted about 15 seconds. I don't know.
He still wants it though. This could be like, you're risking losing a lot of time here.
I don't know if he waited for the ward vision to fade before he walked forward. I don't know. Either way, Kitsume zing 6 at the same time
Oh,
as Frosty going in.
Kitsume. Wow. Yeah, like you said, Spirit Rush comes out, forces the flash almost immediately from Frosty, and now Birdo gonna try his hand at the exact same lane gank, but this time he's not gonna be spotted out by the ward. Here comes the stun onto Caddy. There's the taunt in onto Hoshiyumi. Hoshiyumi gonna try and cut this one out, but the Gauden got hit by the Yordle Snap Trap. The exhaust comes out, and the Pillar of Ice just to cut out the escape path. Caddy gets ignited and is gonna be able to walk away from this one.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice gang from Birdo, knowing that the Annie had no flash. Caddy walking forward, using the exhaust brilliantly to make sure that Machi is not able to trade back onto the Galio. And I mean, Birdo is doing really well. Is out farming the Sylas, getting much more efficient ganks off, and sort of just leading Banger around by the nose in this early game. Oh, he's gonna swap the ward. Is it just you? Is it just me, or do you not like the way that they changed the highlighted
The way
wards
that the
from
sweeper
now?
reveals work.
Yeah.
Yes, it's actually so much harder to see if you're not like super paying attention.
Yeah,
Like
I don't
before
like
when
it.
it like lit up bright red, you could just see everything. Now it's kind of this kind of weird pasty purplish like silhouette type thing. I'm not a fan of it either. I completely agree with you. Hoshimi pick up a giant's belt, suggesting that maybe it's gonna be a Rylai's rush for this Annie.
Yeah, it could be a Rylai's, and that's probably most likely what it will be, considering it is going to be in that supportive role. Banger is going to think about going for that hair or going for that crab, but
And then immediately back off once he sees the Galio and the Trundle and the Dr. Mundo all there to support the jungler.
yeah, and I believe that
unfortunately-
Dorado Gaming should just leave this Herald
Oh,
here.
flash
no
charge comes
flash.
out into a flash stun from Hoshiyumi! Do they have the damage here? Frosty has no flash, but they don't have the damage necessary to finish the job. That's a flash from the support and a flash from the mid, and it's not enough to kill Frosty.
I want to say, I feel like Kitsume must have missed an ability there for that not to kill.
Yeah, hold that thought though, because Banger does have the Dr. Mundo ult. It's gonna be popped up, and they got the Rift Herald, and they got out. Banger cannot find a target. All right,
Yeah,
no, go ahead with
and-
your thought on mid lane.
No, I don't know how they could not have killed there. I mean, I guess, does Frosty just have that much health that it doesn't matter? They only have 1100 health, and I feel like that should have been enough damage coming out from the two of them, but I could just be entirely wrong. Anyway, in the end, Frosty was able to live there, got a nice scatter the weak onto Kitsume to make sure that they were not able to find, any of that final damage. And as a result, Dorado Gaming misses out on both plays. They missed out on the mid kill and the Herald. The Herald was really not sort of allowed. They were not going to be able to fight for that anyway. But, not getting the mid kill is really unfortunate because, Kitsume did a great job of branding the Syndra's flash earlier and was not able to capitalize just yet. But as a result, now we're looking at the gold lead, and it's about sorry, not 4.2. It is about 1,500 gold before this Herald goes down. And just a reminder to everyone that Herald no longer does 2 full plates. It does a plate and a half worth of damage, which means that you can't just drop it and get a free 350 gold. You have to work a little bit harder for it, as Soulbert does get stunned up. Hoshiyumi does have Scorch from what I just saw, which is a little bit interesting. Kitsume getting a nice trade onto Frosty. But, I mean, none of it really matters because Dorado Gaming has not gotten off to the cracking start that we said they needed to get off to really make this game, theirs. Banger could potentially go
Hoshiyumi
onto
just walks
Soulbert.
into 3 members of them, but Soulbert getting jumped up by Banger on the other side. The blast gun gonna be used. Hoshiyumi trying to get in there onto Soulbert, but it will go down. He's stolen. Gallia ultimate is gonna come in from Banger, but now he's just on the run. Here comes Machi over the wall, but not really anything he can do. Flash for forward, gets hit by the ace in the hole, and the true shot barrage comes across. Kutsume is able to get one back onto Soulbert, and now he's just gotta get out of there. But the flash for the brief slow coming up from Birdo. Here we go. Nice Pillar Rights into the Justice Punch, and the Unleashed Power going to be used, but it will be Caddy who picks up the kill.
Yeah, a little bit greedy from Banger there. It's just a really unfortunate play from Dorado Gaming. They're trying so desperately to stay in this game and make plays that will allow them to continue, playing the game at a somewhat even level. But, they're really just falling behind. And this gold lead, as I just said before, was what, 1.4, 1.5 I said before? It has bloomed up to 2.6, K gold, since I said it maybe a minute ago. And with that play going really poorly for Dorado Gaming, not only did Banger lose their flash, they lost a whole bunch of kills there, were not able to trade a single one over because of a nice flash usage from Soulbert. Machi is out of mana.
Yeah, nice sidestep on the build of our Peacemaker. Will be able to just walk it out here. No ace in the hole available to finish him off if he were to get a little bit too low.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit scary. Machi might have had the blown flash if he got hit by that tilt over Peacemaker. And I mean, this game is playing out exactly how Soulbert wanted to play out. Syndra's getting strong. She
Yeah,
is
Banger
going to be
looking for
able.
something down here. Hoshiumi doesn't have a stun charged up, and they just don't feel comfortable jumping in because Caddy with the taunt will just neutralize them long enough for the Yordle Snap Trap to arm up underneath them, and they could just die there.
And you can see the desperation from Banger, just trying to, he's throwing so much stuff at the wall, just hoping that something will stick.
Yeah, he's gonna look for the Syndra now here, but again, Caddy just there, neutralizing this Silas as support Gallia.
Yeah, still has the hero's entrance. Actually, I don't believe they have the hero's entrance just yet. I
Not
think it's coming
quite,
off of cooldown. But I mean, Bennett has been surviving up in this
A lot
lane.
of
Has
damage coming
about
out from
30.
Flat Cargo. BB Bennett is going to use the Spirit here, jumping in onto Flat Bubble Cargo. Just a little bit of damage as he pops back.
Yeah, I mean, very nicely done. Bennett up, I was going to say, about 30 gold, or 30 CS rather, and is doing a very good job. Solo 1v1. I don't think there's been much jungler interference in this lane so far. Banger is going to be spotted on that ward, which means that I think any chance that Banger had at a solo kill is now out the, or sorry, any chance that Bennett had for a solo kill is now out the window, because Flappable Cargo is no longer going to feel any confidence walking forward in that lane.
Yeah, both the junglers' influence in top lane has basically been walk up, get spotted by a ward, and then leave.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, this is really unfortunate. I just want to check the gold real quick. Just looking across the board, the only person with a gold lead on Dorado Gaming is Bennett in the top side, purely because they're just CSing so much better. And I mean, looking at jungle, Banger is down almost 900 gold. Oh, Bennett, I don't know about
Cargo at
this
full
one.
HP now is gonna jump in onto Bennett. Has already popped the ultimate and is now gonna try and chase him down, but he'd be able to dash away. It looks like it just might. No, not gonna go for the tower dive. A little bit too risky up against the Yone. Umberto trying to sneak his way in for a side lane gank here through the brushes. That second one is warded, and they're gonna have to back away anyway. Caddy just gonna take away control ward in the meantime.
This is what I was worried about in the pregame, was if this Silas is not able to pop off early, they're going to be incredibly useless given the ultimates that they have available to them. Oh, Machi taking so much damage. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
a lot of damage from the headshot on the Yordle Snap Trap. Yordle Snap Trap and the ace in the hole. And now this might just be a dive angle as Birdo is going to show himself here. The Arcane Shift has already been used. Going to take a little bit of damage there. It's going to be tanked up by Caddy. Then Birdo, perfectly done.
Yeah, just Machi knows not to flash there. It's just going to be burning a useless cooldown if they do. Soulbert doing a really nice job. I guess catching Machi on that trap that he placed. But doing a really good job to secure that.
They're gonna
kill.
look for it here. Hoshiumi. Oh,
now.
great pillar. Flash Charm though comes in, and Birdo gonna get away. Here's the hero's entrance gonna be used. Gonna knock up Hoshiumi in the backside. It's a big taunt coming out onto Banger, and Banger just cannot survive. A teleport from Frosty. Scatter the weak onto Hoshiumi and the Unleashed Power. Is it enough? Not quite, but maybe one more Dark Spear will do it. The tower gonna fall, and Birdo gonna chase him down. Needs to try and get that stun. Here's the wall, and there's the chomp. It's gonna be another kill going the way of going Soulbert.
Did we see Tibbers get used on stream? Did Hoshiumi use Tibbers on a fight somewhere, because they didn't have it available in that play, which I think could have maybe swung a little bit in their favor. I mean, either way, I don't think it would have mattered. Going Soulbert is just so strong right now. They've been rotating very well together and making use, of their leads. Gold on everyone you want it to be on, right? Their kills aren't going to the wrong people. Trundle might have 2 kills, which, some could say is a little bit useless, but going for the Divine Sunder means that Trundle is going to be putting out a good amount of damage in this game. Syndra and Caitlyn with a good amount of gold each. They're both about, 1,000 gold plus up on their lane opponents, respectively, and they're going to be coming in with a whole lot of damage. And what I was going to say in the pregame, but I held until now, is that with the way that Dorado Gaming has drafted this comp, the Caitlyn in this game has such free will to build whatever she wants, to the point where this is going to be a Kraken Slayer into IE, as Bennett is going to try and be the savior for Dorado Gaming here. Ooh.
Yeah. What do you think of Bennett's build with the Blade of the Rune King first item for Yone? Of course, the Blade of the Rune King, a very efficient item against health stacking champions like the Trundle, like the Dr. Mundo, but Yone is not getting any value from his passive with this first item pickup.
Yeah, I could see some strange build coming out from Bennett this game, potentially, centering around, maybe an IE or maybe potentially we talked about it last game, a Mortal Reminder. And maybe going for more of a defensive mythic as was.
Kitsume or Hoshiyumi tried to block that, stood there, and then it just sailed right on past him.
Yeah.
Failed the friendship test, but it's
Yeah.
okay. We'll survive anyway. But it will mean the Rift Herald going the way of going Soulbert once again. I gotta say, I'm hoping we have some. Never mind, no downtime here. As Frosty's just gonna scatter the weak, unleash power. Matt G's got nowhere to go because he's just dead.
And the danger ping comes out onto the bush right after Matt G dies there. Just really unfortunate as we
Are
see.
they gonna be able to get this revenge kill before the recall goes off? No, it's so tragic. Just nothing going the way of Dorado Gaming Omega today.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it in draft. I think it's a little bit of a comp dip. I think the fact that, Dorado Gaming was not able to get something going in this game meant that it was almost impossible for them to play. They do not win this fight whatsoever if they try and take it. Even if they do have a nice flank from Hoshi, who is going to get chunked down from stepping on a single trap. They don't win anything here, and, Soulbert gets a nice trade on that tower kill. Not trade. They get a nice tower kill there as Bennett is trying so hard to make something stick in this top side there. But, Flammable Cargo doing a great job. While the rest of his team is winning on the other side of the map, he is not giving up.
Yeah, all he has to do is not die.
He's doing a great job just surviving on this top side here. And Bennett is trying very hard. I mean, does have a 40 CS lead, right? So this Yona is not, doing nothing. His Flammable Cargo could potentially get gone on there. Frosty
is going to be the target here. Katsume, you're going to go in with the Spirit Rush Charm. Frosty is going to get full comboed in, and the stolen Unleash power. The shutdown finally goes over to Banger.
Whew. And this is, I think, the first successful Sylas gank we've seen so far this game. I could be wrong. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I think that's the first one we've had this game. So Banger finally getting on the board here is going to be, getting a nice injection of gold with that 600 gold bounty from the Syndra there, but I mean, the rest of his team is, again, not very strong and cannot really fight. Hoshi could get caught.
Gonna find by the Pillar of Ice, but has the Blast Cone as an option here. The stun into Banger's E coming out. The taunt coming in on to Banger, and that's a lot of damage here. The Justice Punch. True Shot Barrage is going to be channeled as well, but they don't really care. They're just going to take away the red buff, and here comes Bennett over the side. You have Teleport coming in from Frosty as the Ezreal ability is just flying across the way. They just cannot find a way into their own jungle. The zone potential from this Galio is just too much for them to handle. They do get a tower in the bottom lane thanks to the efforts of Kitsume. A Scout of the Week stun on to Banger, but he'll be able to jump away with the Abscond of Duck. Caddy is going to take a little bit of damage coming out of Matt G, but that's all that he'll take, and they're going to back away.
Very well done from Dorado. They had enough restraint not to try and force a fight there. They knew that they were going to get a tower bounty on the bottom side, and so all they had to do was protect themselves and not die, and therefore they were able to get a good amount of gold onto that Ahri, who is potentially going to get caught out here by the Syndra. Is forced to use the Spirit Rush actually to get away, which is a little bit unfortunate. But with third dragon spawning in about 40 seconds time, let's see how these teams are shaping up. Ahri is resetting. It seems that Dorado Gaming is focusing most of their efforts onto this top side and might potentially look to try and trade this top tower. That's at least what I would try and do, I think, if I were in this game state. It is the third dragon for going Soulbert, but Dorado Gaming is down 5k gold, and I don't believe that they have the resources to fight this.
Yeah, very unfortunate if they were to have to give over, obviously a Baron is bad, but the Dragon even putting them at soul point, they lost last game as a result of, not like soul in 4, but hold on a second, is Frosty gonna get jumped up by Banger, flash away from the Abscond of Duck. Do they have the damage here coming out? There's the Q from Banger, now he's gonna have to back away because there comes the collapse from the rest of them. I think if they were in any real trouble also, they had the ultimate, the hero's entrance coming out from Caddy. I think he was on his way down there to be in range.
That is a really risky fight from Banger because they had no vision on that bot side. And if Berto was just a little bit closer, that easily forces the silence.
Hoshiyumi is actually getting zoned out, gonna have to rejoin the team on the other side. Here comes the teleport coming in from Flammable Cargo. They don't have Frosty in this fight yet, but they're just focusing down the Dragon, and it doesn't look like anyone is brave enough to pull the trigger. Machi throws down the True Shot Rush just for a very minuscule amount of damage. Caddy coming forward, ready to zone in with the taunt, is gonna be forcing away Banger, and they are gonna finish it off, but here comes the ultimate. There comes Annie Tibbers dropping down. The Hero's Engine is going to be used. Try and get in there, but they cannot bond anyone. The Pillar of Ice is good, but they're just focusing down Caddy. Banger's the first kill of the fight, and Caddy survives on the other side. Here comes Bennett going, but immediately jumping back out, but he will go down to a headshot from Soulbert. Hoshiumi and Katsume are just getting taken down by Birdo. The troll is just running him down. It's the ace in the hole takedown. Matt G on the other side of the fight. A double kill for the Trundle, and a 4-for-0 for going Soulbert.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of fight you want for going Soulbert. You get the dragon, you have a very nice setup, you don't take too much damage from the Ezreal poke, and as a result, you just get a free fight, even with the Syndra being late to it. It's one of two things. I thought that Dorado Gaming was just going to let them have it once they saw the Mundo TP in, but they decided to opt for that fight. I think it would have been much more beneficial for them to just have Bennett stay up in that top side and take the dragon, or take the tower rather. But instead, you know, Dorado Gaming feels the pressure of that Dragon Soul clock ticking, and so they decide to take their fight there. And as a result, that gold lead blooms to now 7,000 in favor of going Soulbert. And you know, with 2 items finished on this Caitlyn and almost 2 items finished on this Mundo as well, it's going to be very difficult for Dorado Gaming to play, as it looks like Bennett is going to be going for that full glass cannon build with the I believe it's going to be the Immortal Shield Bow to pair alongside that Bork. It is the standard build on Yone these days. And I guess he feels the pressure to carry as well. There's just nothing going for Dorado Gaming, right? We talked about it, you know, in draft. They needed to get ahead this game early, or it was going to be a problem for them. And now you kind of have, you know, I don't want to seem mean, but you have like 4 useless members, and then you have Bennett, who's trying very desperately to hold on to this game. And as a result, you know, you see, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna praise going Soulbert here. They've been very clean throughout this entire game. They've, you know, done everything right. They've, you know, played the macro fairly well. They've done the invades that work with their team. They've played their style. They've played the style that their comp needed to play in order to win. And I don't know why they're afraid to start this. I guess they're just waiting for Flappable Cargo to move down.
Caddy doesn't want to be the one to tank it, so they have Birdo here. Birdo will be able to tank it up nicely, and they're just going to take it probably uncontested here. Flappable Cargo just here to push Banger out as best he can. Banger is just going to try and walk past him. He steals away the Dr. Mundo ultimate, but it's too little too late. Secured by going Soulbert. They're looking to 2-0 this series.
Yeah, you know, I think going Soulbert has, you know, a hot date that they were trying to get to.
There's the Pillar of Ice, forcing the Spirit Rush with the ace in the hole. Oh, huge chunk of damage, and there's the Scout of the Weak stuns on the Matt G. Unleash Power is enough. Matt G with the Arcane Shift is not able to escape his fate.
And just to check, Frosty does not have the full stacks on Cinder yet, is sitting at 93. So that was just
that wasn't even the XP, that wasn't the damage.
That was just raw damage coming out from Frosty there. And, you know, they're looking to clean this game up, you know, fairly quickly. This has been really standard. They've been doing a good job. They're just marching down with their Baron buff. They have enough to tank these towers if they wanted to. Another stun
ins on the Hoshiumi. Bennett from the backside. There's the taunt onto the Ahri, who does not have the Spirit Rush available. So they're playing this one safely. They've already gotten 1 Nexus Tower, and they've got another wave of Baron buff minions here. Scout of the Week not going to find a stun. Banger does have the Dr. Mundo ultimate. The True Shot Rush comes out as Matt G so low level that he respawns that quickly. Bennett now gets the Pyro Shield coming out. He's going to look here. Caddy charging up a taunt. He's going to taunt it up. Justice Punch in. Bennett is going to go very low and just go down. There's a lot of damage coming out, but Kitsume gets exhausted, and Matt G just steps on a trap and immediately gets eviscerated. Banger is going to get Justice Punched into the air and go down immediately after. That's just going to be it, and it's going to be the 2-0 for going Soulbert.
Yeah, very nicely played by going Soulbert. You know, they had their comp. They played front to back. They saw the early pickups coming from Dorado Gaming. They said, okay, we're just going to pick, you know, a really strong front line and Syndra and, you know, just beat you with tanks. And they did that. They played very well. I think it was a very stock standard game as opposed to that first game that they had. And so, you know, it's just a clean 2-0 and very nicely done.
Yeah, a little unfortunate for Dorado Gaming Omega. They we've been saying it this whole series, but they are the runners-up coming in from season 1, and this is definitely not the start they wanted for this season 2 of the Classic Championship series. But it's a long league it's a long season. They've got a lot of time to make up for this loss, but really well played by going Soulbert. Nicely done by them. Are we doing interviews for today?
I don't know. I kind of forgot to think about that. For reference, our producer also just said they don't know. So I think
Okay.
Play's in chat. I think Elsa's in chat as well. But
We'll probably get an update. I'll give him I'll give him a little bit before I say, hey,
Yeah,
we're
we'll wait a
gonna
second.
sign off or anything like that. But
I mean, either way, I'm really excited. This was a good first week. I know it was a 2-0, but I mean, Dorado Gaming made it an entertaining 2-0 at least, being the content org that they are. Decided to fight everything, um, every single opportunity that they had. And so as a result, they lost the flip. But it was an interesting series at least. And I actually liked seeing the compositions that Soulbert came up with, showing that Seraphine could potentially get picked in this mid lane, and showing that Frosty is a danger on that Zoe.
yeah,
Um,
the Zoe was we kind of harped on it a little bit at the beginning of game number 1, but as the game went on, we were kind of like, well, better shut up because that guy is turbo smurfing today.
yeah, made us
And
eat our words.
yeah, I really liked. I have to say, I really liked the Galio support in this game number 2. It seemed very, very effective against what Dorado Gaming Omega had in store for them. So we haven't received. Oh wait, have we? Uh, yes. Redacted says that we will be doing an interview. So we're gonna take a short break while we set that one up. So stay tuned. We do have a short interview with a member of Going Soulbert before we go. We'll see you in just a little bit. Internet, hello and welcome back. We have a short interview here with the namesake of Going Soulbert, Soulbert himself. First off, I gotta say, I love your team's logo. I'm big Pokemon fan. I love the Latias. I'm assuming it's like a reference to the fact that they have the Soul Dew. That's not what we're here to talk about, but I just wanted to say that. In any case, uh, tell us about that game. The you played Seraphine in game number 1, Caitlyn number 2. How did you feel about that series as a whole?
Honestly, I was not super confident coming into this series because I think Hoshi is a really interesting player in terms of the champions he plays. Um,
Oh yeah,
even
we
though,
were we
yeah,
were kind of talking about like, oh, maybe this Silas goes support, you know? But
honestly, that I said that to my team. There's a chance they could go support because I know Hoshi follows the house of Ichirat in terms of support picks.
Oh
So
boy.
oh
Um,
yeah.
Nice. I kind of wanted to ask you real quick about what comms were like at the end of that first game because it seemed pretty hectic. Um, trying to force the end into almost getting ended on into, oh my god, maybe we can just counter end the counter end. Can you give us a little insight as to what was going on there?
I think before that point was when we realized that we are playing our comp horrifically in terms of the Seraphine Kindred Braum together in team fights. Like, we never took a team fight until later on when we're grouped together. And when we're grouped together, it's really easy to win. But if we're separated, that's when their team comp shines with Nautilus Trist. They like the scrappy fights, not the full on 5v5s. So
I mean,
I'd say at the end of the game, we figured out how to play our comp basically. So
you guys had. I mean, it's great when you can fight front to back and have your assassin Tom Kench kill the ADC.
Yeah,
on the
I
other
never
side.
saw him on my screen, but I heard him saying he was killing the backline. I'm like, ah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And I
So
guess
you said oh
yeah.
sorry.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
So you said coming into this series you weren't feeling super confident. After winning that series in a 2-0, very convincing in that game number 2 by the way. Um do you feel a lot more confident? How far do you think that going Soulbert can go, and is there any team that you've scouted already that you're kind of looking out for?
Hard Hat Zone is on my radar for sure. But after the series, I think we're getting there in terms of comms and stuff. Because oftentimes when we were scrimming, we were not on the same page even remotely, which led to us having some terrible scrim sets, to be honest. So
I mean, well,
Well,
you
hey,
looked good today.
yeah, as long as you
Um,
get there, you know.
yeah,
yeah,
you looked really good today. That
I
first,
think I think the sky's the limit. The limit as long as we keep improving and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I guess talking about improvement. I guess my last question before we let you, give a shout out or two is, sort of what draft adaptations did you guys feel you needed to make going into game 2, if any?
We thought they would leave up to Caitlyn, which I mean, from game 1 to game 2, I thought they were gonna ban one of the Seraphine or Kindred out of our comp because I think that comp's really, really good generally, as long as we know how to execute later on.
Were you surprised at
So
all that they banned the Seraphine and then still picked the Silas blind?
I was a little surprised at Silas Blind because I don't think that champion's that great against Caitlyn in particular. Um, which is why we opted into for like a Victor ban. I think Victor's a control mage that can affect Caitlyn the most in terms of team fights and stuff, in terms of
Yeah.
making space.
Similar range and able to, yeah, exactly, create space with the
Yeah,
gravity field and death laser.
yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for answering our questions, Solbert. Do you have any shout outs you'd like to give before we let everyone go for the evening?
Uh, I love Hedge and his Malphite impression interest. That's all.
All
Very
right.
well.
You heard him. That is Soulbert from Going Soulbert, the namesake of the team. Uh, Coming off of a 2-0 victory over Dorado Gaming Omega. That is going to be it for us here on the Classic Championship Series stream for tonight. I think there's something tomorrow. Am I right about that? Am I wrong about that?
I'm the wrong person to ask, but I will be more
Okay.
informed next
I'm
week.
pretty sure there's
I
something.
believe there is. Yeah, I believe there
Yes,
is.
I actually know there is. So, yeah, tune in for the stream tomorrow for more Classic Championship Series Season 2. Thanks for watching. It's been HNA2 and Septi, and we're signing off.